I have to tell you, I only have one story today, but it's a good story. It's about how the government didn't screw up and they did such a good job on something. And I'm hat in hand to you, Joel, that I'm like, oh my gosh, I've been ragging on the government for
Tears in your eyes, sir,
yeah,
Mr. Government.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And if you believe that, hold on. Okay, so first off, Hamilton, they pivot to allow
Sorry.
Hamilton, the town,
The city?
the city of Hamilton.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, you have to be more specific. I'm like with F1 and Hamilton and
Oh, that guy.
Ferrari,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
everyone's talking Hamilton. So when I hear Hamilton, I automatically think of Lewis. What's
Oh,
happening now? But
got it.
okay, the
Okay, so
city of
the
Hamilton.
city of Hamilton,
Yeah,
they pivoted because they pivot. They used a lot of buzzwords, but this was the first one where they pivoted to allow small, tiny homes, and they're going to buy tiny homes to put on this vacant lot for affordable housing. And they announced this in September. I'm going to show you the article. They're pivoting for small cabins at Brownfield site to address homeless. The plan would accommodate up to 80 people in the city. So right now it's like a tent city.
sure.
They're buying a bunch of tiny homes. This is and they're gonna put it on the shelter. The cost is gonna cost a lot because they're gonna have 24-hour staff. So it's gonna cost about 4 million a year, and they're gonna spend 800,000 more, so about 4.8 million a year on 7 full-time staff. So okay, so that's what you and I talked about. Is like if you and I were handed a piece of government land, how many tiny homes could you and I build? I think we talked about this a year ago. And you and I think we could make a mint off of actually just building like little garages and calling them homes, right?
Mhm.
So hats off to them. They listened to our idea, I think. And then
Someone's watching us.
what's that?
Someone is
They're
watching us.
Okay. Now I'm gonna side pivot a little. That's good news. Like they're doing it. They're buying 40 homes. But at the same time, just a few months later, they told a bunch of Hamilton residents who had moved RVs onto a lot that their tiny homes are illegal and they must be removed. The city, so here we go. The city says they lied to them. A bunch of these little tiny homes on wheels are illegally installed without building permits at a resort. A shocking revelation for residents who just moved into the units, purchased them for hundreds of thousands of dollars. The building department has ordered the resort landowner and Ancaster Springs to immediately apply for construction permits to make the homes legal or remove them. The landowner, Joe, says that actually the homes are certified RVs that should be allowed on as the Highway 52 resort near hamlet of Copetown, arguing the property has previously hosted trailers for years. He said the units meet CSA standards for RVs, and there they are. They look like an RV to me, to be honest with you. And the city said, no, shut them down or pay us money because
That sounds like a zoning issue to me.
It is. And
It sounds like
end
what
of
they're
the story.
doing is they're taking like a makeshift campground and turning it into a new little community.
Yeah, they move
Which-
little homes onto them.
Which
yeah.
I'm all about.
Yeah, which are affordable homes.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
I'm all for.
Yeah,
But it sounds like the property owner himself is kind of like skirting the issue. It sounds like there's a little bit more to the story of
but
like,
you've been to a campsite and all these guys' RVs have decks built on them and they've got this and they've got permanent structures and you're like, that's essentially their home too, right? But
true.
these are the
Second
same thing.
home sometimes. Yeah.
Honestly, for a lot of guys, they're like, I'm like, oh, where's your RV? They're like, I leave it there year round. So they essentially bought an RV for 80,000 or whatever they are, which is now a house, and they have a campground. They pay their $100 a month, and away they go. That's
It's a good
essentially
point.
what this guy did.
What I'm wondering, and from a city standpoint, is if maybe there's some services that could be overused in that area that isn't deep. Like I don't know if it's power, water. There
maybe.
might be a service that they're
Yeah.
not taking into consideration, which I mean would theoretically make sense if that's the case, but I'm
Yeah.
trying to see all angles before. It seems pretty stupid on the surface, but I'm feeling that there might be more to the story that
Okay.
we're not understanding.
That's fine. That's only part 2 of the story. That's
Sure.
fine. So part 1 was city wants to pivot towards affordable housing. City finds people doing affordable housing, asks them to demolish the housing.
Yeah.
City orders
Wasn't their idea.
wasn't their idea. But you know what? Now, last week, the tiny homes they ordered started arriving in Hamilton. Okay, now the story gets good.
Okay.
As the tiny homes arrive in Hamilton, councillors are asked why the city bought made in China units for $35,000. Staff say they were working on a tight timeline to get the outdoor shelter site up and running. So, when City of Hamilton agreed to buy 40 tiny homes from Brantford, Ontario, a company that was made a few months ago, for a new outdoor shelter site, they thought they were supporting a local Indigenous-owned business that was one of the few of capable of delivering in the short timeline they wanted. So a company sprung up. They didn't do any due diligence. And this company said they were indigenously owned. And they sold the city these tiny homes for $35,000 plus shipping. Okay, it's still reasonable. It's fine. It's a good price. What they didn't know...
that should be your first thing. What is
Where
shipping have
are
to
you
do
shipping them
with
from? What? Why does it say Shanghai on it? So what they didn't know was the Micro Shelters was a new... Micro Shelters is the name of the company. Was a new corporation that could go through an American company to order the tiny homes from China. Staff said at a General Issues Committee meeting on Wednesday. It was a very quick turnaround to meet deadlines on the project, said Daniel Blake, the city's manager of housing focused on outreach. Good. Staff had been focused on finding shelters large enough for 2 people that could be delivered in a short time frame. I mean, there's no one that could build a garage in 6 months. It's impossible. You can't build a garage in 6 months. You couldn't find any guys that work there. But anyway, you had to order them from China. I'm not sure we had every detail that we have now in regards to the company and the origin of the units, right? Okay, here's where it gets really crazy. Is half the orders arrived this week. The city paid $35,000 for 1 double cabin, which included 2 beds, but not delivery fees. On Wednesday, staff said they were also not aware that tiny homes appear to be similar to the ones on Chinese marketplace Alibaba, which are listed for $1,600. So they hired a company that was brand new, which was pretended to be indigenous, that went to China, bought 40 homes for $1,600 each, sold them to this government for, what's the number? 35,000 times 40. That's 1.4 million plus shipping, so 2 million. And what's 40 times 1,600? That's $64,000 minus 1.4 million. So the city overspent by $1.336 million. They could have ordered them themselves from Alibaba.
I love this. I love this so much. Like, this is like a perfect analogy of every type of government. Like,
Yeah.
This is, if anybody wants to learn about government efficiency in any sector,
Yes.
they need to, like, this needs to be their bedtime story. If you're a government official, this should be read to you every night as a story.
What I just saw was, well, I'm looking over here. I'm going to put the links in there so everyone reads. The project total is about $7 million, including setting it up and running it for the year. What was the other article from 6 months ago? $4 million, right? So in just 6 months, they budgeted 4. Now it's 7. And no one questions any of this. This is why your taxes go up so much. Half the tiny homes were delivered this week, and the rest of the currently in Canada being transported to Central Hamilton from West Harbour GO station. Here's the thing. Staff says they never saw the units in person. On Wednesday, Ward 9 Councillor Brad Clark said the micro shelters had only been registered as a corporation weeks before the city selected them. According to Ontario's business registry, Micro Shelters incorporated on August 28th. So they incorporated 8 days before that article in the paper came out. So what happened was the city was putting out bids. This company's like, oh, let's incorporate. Let's make this bid. And then the city bragged about how we're going to bring these tiny homes. And this company incorporated saying we're indigenous, which really is a kick in the teeth because they're trying to support a local. Clark asked whether staff had seen the units in person. He was told he only saw online images of a site run by an unrelated company in Salt Lake City, Utah. Micro Shelters, which appears to have launched this website last spring, filled it with images and videos of tiny homes from the Utah project, including aerial shots of a dozen or so units being delivered and set up. So they just stole from another website that actually was building them in Utah.
Yeah, it was a complete scam.
Complete scam from start to finish. On Wednesday, Mader appeared to acknowledge that looking back, staff could have gathered more information about the company and the sources and the shelters. If we failed to do everything we should, it should be on me, she said. Ward 7 Councillor Esther Pauls, who voted against the project, good for you, Esther, in September, said this is a reminder to councillors and staff how procurements can go wrong. There's a lot of publicity about, there's a lot of publicity about this that's very negative. We have to be very careful when we do procurement and make sure we're getting the value for our money. So yeah, it was voted, yeah.
If I was a tiny home company in the area,
yeah,
I would, and I had the ability to meet their demand, and I bid on that and lost, I would be calling my lawyer.
Oh yeah. Wait a minute. There's $1,159 each. If you order 40,
wow.
There you go. So
that's insane. That's absolutely insane.
Yeah, this is what they are. Oh my gosh, this is no more than a shipping container.
Yeah.
Oh, what's happening here? How do I get through the photos? Come on, Alibaba. Yeah.
They're just finished shipping containers. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, that's not.
They're so weird. Send inquiry? Yes, please.
Yeah.
Hold on. Let's see what we get for our money. I want 40 of these buggers right now. Yeah, 46 grand. They spent 1 point, whatever I said.
That's nuts.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. To be negotiated for shipping. So that is government efficiency. I was wrong. Sorry, I thought they did such a good thing. Tiny houses, affordable housing. And they go and shut down another tiny housing unit. And then they order from China. And they're going to have to put these up. I mean, what do you do now? The problem is the councillors that voted for it and paid for it and did no research, they're not out a penny.
No. Well, they're out the increase in property taxes.
Well, yeah, but you and I, or not I, they have to pay that, right?
Yeah.
So if it was 1.35 million they overspent, let's say, and there's 7 councillors, yeah, they all each owe 200 grand. That's what it should happen. Sorry, guys, you owe 200 grand to the city today. Yeah, you're the wards, you're the stewards of the community.
There's so many things wrong with that. Even starting from a mentality standpoint, when you're going to be doing something like this, how about you reach somebody absolutely local? And if it's going to take 8 months instead of 6, well, it takes 8 instead of 6.
Yeah.
to get the 40 done.
Yes.
If somebody came to me today, and I'm not even in that industry, and said, "Hey, Joel, I need 40 tiny homes built in 6 months. Do you have any idea how to do this?" I'd be like, "Yeah, absolutely."
Yeah. Especially if
I would feel confident I could get that done just by contracting that out to local people with the limited knowledge that I have.
Right.
I don't know why. It's just the mentality, top-down mentality that you need to be sourcing stuff for as cheap as possible from as far as possible when you have, keep that money in house.
Yeah. The funny thing is, a friend of mine just built essentially that exact same thing for a company he's running. And I guess I'll give him a little plug. Why not? It's called Igloo Ice Fishing. And I don't know if he's got any photos, but see this, he built this little container himself. There's got to be photos of it somewhere. Where is it? There. That's the shack.
Yeah.
And it's about the same size, but inside it's got beds. It's got you can go fishing. It's got a little cooker in there. So I don't know what he built that for, but I'm gonna say it's not gonna be $80,000. It's probably in that $25,000-$30,000 range. Let's say if you're a young company and city calls you and goes, "Hey, order 40 of those." Like a framing company in town here, a buddy of mine could build 40 of those in a couple weeks.
I'm sure if you went to Southland Trailers.
Oh my gosh, they could build it. Yes, and they have an assembly line.
That would be my first call. Is hey,
Triple M Housing or
exactly.
companies like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Get 2 of those together for a community initiative to get something like that done, and they'd have it done in 6 months. They'd figure out a way to do it. It just seems silly to me that you would even contact a company outside of Hamilton, even if it's in Brantford or whatever.
Yeah.
Why would that's like us going to Calgary? Why would we do that when we have the people in house to do it? Like, get it done.
You know what's the silly thing? So we do real estate, which is nothing. We're not that important. If someone buys a house or someone wants to be a vendor for us and they have 1, 2, 3, 4 Alberta Limited, we go to the registry and make sure how long they've been registered for. Like they're the city. They just like, oh yeah, great, indigenously owned company. Anyway, they just did it. They just did it to sound good, pat themselves on the back. Hey, we did it. We bought tiny homes. And it only cost, it was like $4 million. I mean, $7 million. I mean, whatever it ends up being. They don't care. That's the problem. So
insane.
Yeah. And the problem is, it's just got to go forward. They got to drop those houses because they're already on like the shipping container.
Yeah.
Alibaba, which
I believe Halifax, maybe not, maybe I'm making this up, but I thought I heard Halifax or somewhere around there did a similar tiny home community as well, like 6 months ago.
Interesting. I mean, it's a great idea.
Yeah.
If there was some vacant land in town, could you just hire me? I'll take $100,000 as a consultant fee. That's it. It's nothing.
There's a ton of vacant land in town.
Perfect. Hire me, Joel. You want in? You get $100,000. I get $100,000.
Hey.
City. That's like nothing. What's that? Was that $2 per resident? Come on.
Yeah.
All right. That's enough. Government wins again. And I was wrong at the beginning by saying they did a great thing.
I do love this story, though. Somebody needs to make that into a children's book that government officials can read to themselves every night before bed. I
agree. And I like that. I wasn't intending to find, look at this. This just came off my keyboard. What the heck? And that's been there the whole time. It's just a bunch of plastic that was on my keyboard. I like that when I was searching up the story, I found them celebrating it and then shutting down another competitor and then building their own and then screwing up. Oh, they're the greatest.